SharePoint Dev Weekly, episode 24. It is now 28th of January or 29th, depending again from which time zone you're actually calling into this call, right? No, it's
27th for you.
Yeah, my computer is showing 28th because I'm actually my computer. I don't flip my computer clock. So anyway, so if somebody's wondering, I flew into the Redmond. I drop by at the office. So my commutes are pretty tough, so to say.
Yeah.
But I actually earlier today I was putting. I think I put it in Facebook or something like. Well, on the other hand, if you fly 16 hours or 14 hours once a quarter, comparing staying in the traffic every freaking morning, so yeah, I think once a quarter in a plane isn't that too bad. So
are you trying to say that you don't need to be in the office every day?
I have my own office.
Well, define the office, right?
Yes, define an office. Define an office, especially considering what we do and how we. Yeah, anyway, however, that's your office, right? So you don't actually pay for you as well. So you don't actually go to office.
Well, I have a home work distance of a floor. So I go up, I'm at work. I go down, I'm home.
Well, I go to a room at home, but then anyway, it doesn't. It doesn't. Anyway, there's no traffic usually between the kitchen and the office, right? So that's a.
Well, if my kids need to go up the stairs at the same time, then there is traffic jam on the stairs. Yes, I cannot.
And my kid as well, and dog and cats, and yeah, that could be.
Yeah.
Anyway, so SharePoint Dev Weekly, not family. Anyway, so I'll be here this week in Redmond. So like I said, I'm just dropping by at the office. Nothing actually. This is really weird. There's no seminars, no conferences, no nothing. I'm just actually dropping by at the office, which is brilliant because there's no extra setup. So typically when I fly over, there's always a dev kitchen that there's conference or something, and then we
summit
we prepare the stuff until like 2 a.m. in the morning, and it's always like it's kind of stressful. Yeah, and I was like working here 5 days. Oh, that's cool. So not a problem. Anyway, so what about you? So what you're looking into or what you've been doing on the past week?
Last week we did a quick release, which was a bit due to my illness. I had flu, so we did a release of the CLI with, among other things, support for SPOD, because we had somebody reported that they couldn't use CLI on SPOD because we were too strict about URLs. In SPOD, you can use
SPOD for majority of our listeners. So
so SPOD is the SharePoint Online Dedicated, which is a special setup for big companies who used to be on-prem, wanted to go online, but they couldn't rebuild and rethink everything. So they wanted they're kind of in the middle where they can do things like they can use custom URL.
Sure.
Well, so that's just one of the many things that I can do. Yeah.
Well, there's actually not that many other things. So the
anymore.
Domain, it used to be. We used to support farm solutions even for them. Or I think there's still one customer left on old dedicated platform running in farm solutions, which is but anyway.
Yeah.
So, but it's a more expensive option, and because of the vanity URLs, there are certain exceptions because the tenant URL isn't actually composer.sharepoint.com, right?
But so that is one, but then the tenant admin side as well. There is also different URL for that too. So in the past, we were too strict about that, and when you would try to use CLI, we would throw error that you provided an invalid URL. So we removed that, and it seems to be working fine. That is one. And then two, there's an interesting effort going on together with Ali Salih. We're looking into the ability, imagine that you would have a piece of malicious script on a page. Would you be able to use all the offerings that are available to us as a part of the Microsoft 365 E5 SKU? Would you be able to, A, find out about it, that script is trying to, for example, exfiltrate the data from the tenant, and then B, prevent that? So I created a piece of script that does exactly that you would put on a page, and that will use search to exfiltrate or to search for confidential stuff, and then send that over to external API. And Ali is looking into, okay, what tools do we have available, and is there a way for us to do anything about these scripts? Because oftentimes there's the ability to manage cloud apps, but a piece of script you put on a page is not really an app. Is from that point of view, it doesn't have a footprint in AAD. So we went back and forth a bit, like, can you do it or not? So he wanted to experiment with that. So if all is well, we will have soon a verdict whether you can do it or not.
Okay, that sounds really interesting. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, and then
absolutely.
Yeah, and
cool.
One last thing that we did at Rancor, we launched a free tool that allows you to quickly have a look in your tenant and then see whether there are any important issues that you should take care of immediately or not. Things like vulnerable scripts or scripts that you load from external URLs that are beyond the management of your IT and all of that. So that's also available for everybody for free to use. And
that's from Rancor, right? So that's
correct.
But that's not using this framework which is provided by PNP, because exactly what you're doing. So analyzing the bases and scripts and everything else, and customize the bases and getting a list of and everything else, that these are things which you should look into. Right?
Yes. Yep.
But anyway, so that there is a open source analyzing tool doing similar things from PNP crew as well.
Well, from the analysis point of view, PNP tools look only for the modern side. Like, so what are the modern things that block you? Whereas on our end, we focus on the code analysis. Right? So we analyze code and we look into is there anything wrong with the code? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Now, quickly on my side, so this week, obviously, we're looking into getting the provisioning service pretty soon out, which has a massive impact, absolutely. So you're able to provision the Ignite UI lookbook sites to your tenants easily, or test tenants using one single location. That's really, really cool. I demonstrated that on Thursday's community call. If somebody didn't see that, go and have a look on what's coming. I think that will be really a game changer for people to realizing that what you can do within the modern, because they can actually provision example content and structures and all of that. So not just SharePoint Starter Kit, but also looking other and layouts and all of that. So, and we have Irvin and Paolo and Bert working on the whole thing as well. So that looks really good. And then there's plenty of other stuff, obviously, which we need to figure out. MVP Summit is coming. We need to lock down the spring plan for SPFX. That's ongoing. There's interesting stuff to check. At this point. Now, anyway, so let's actually go to the slides. So let's not go to the slides. Let's go to the process.
You have slides?
Now I only have one screen, so you will put, this actually worked okay. Interesting. I wasn't aware that it's doing that. So when I shared the screen, it actually flipped down the Microsoft Teams. So I wasn't aware that it's actually doing that.
Yeah.
Now, okay, you can see what I'm sharing, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
Cool. So let's start with this one. So this one came from Chris McNulty last Wednesday around the modernization news. So this is really around I would say, the ECM side of the document management side of the modern experiences, the library experiences, and it basically lists the latest status on some of these capabilities like bulk check-in, check-out. Signals is actually a pretty cool setup. So you can actually see what's happening on the page in the document itself. Is it trending up? Is it record? Is it new? Is it shared? And all of that. So, and it's actually an interesting scenario potentially to have a third-party signals as well. Why not? Actually, why wouldn't we?
Absolutely. Well, the risk then is that you will have like a whole row of these.
Sure.
And users will be like, okay, so what does that mean exactly?
But isn't the risk with custom column formatting or view formatting or whatever else? You can always
with column formatting, you can only have one applied to column. You cannot have an overlay of few of them.
That is true. That's true. Well, anyway, we'll figure it out. We'll see if we will have a third-party option. That column totals are coming. Sticky headers, something which actually people were super happy in, at least in social media. Finally, it's coming because if you have a large lists, it's nice to have the headers actually visible when you're adding columns between the columns, so you're able to basically add a column and move the columns between the spaces and views, which makes perfect sense without actually going to edit a view functionality. So something which definitely is understandable that it's coming. And then modern document sets seems to be actually, this is not sure why it's getting so much attention. Maybe it's just people are using that more than I actually know, but super happy of seeing document sets getting supported on the modern experiences, and it is the classic document sets, but it's working in the modern experiences without any problems, so, which is really good. So the document library doesn't fall back on classic then, so you will be all the time in modern, which is the key, the whole point.
Yep.
But yeah, a lot of cool stuff, updates on the document management side, and this is just the start. So there will be much more on the documents and ECM side of the story within later part of this year. So we'll see, probably by the SPC, SharePoint Conference 2019, we'll have set of awesome announcements already, but then more and more in the future, because now we have a own engineering team thinking ECM functionalities inside of the SharePoint engineering.
Cool.
Like we used to have at some point, but then we didn't, and now we're having again. So hey, that's how it
Yeah,
works.
I think ECM wasn't that really big starting during SharePoint 2010 release.
Yeah, I think it was 2010, and then, well, obviously 2010. Now it's 2019. There has been quite a few reworks.
Quite a few, yeah.
It's good to get a specific team back who is just dedicated to think through the document management scenarios in SharePoint, so or in the Microsoft 365. So really cool. Now, the next thing what I wanted to kind of remind and promote everybody. So here's a tool from Per Jansen, so which is around the PNP beta page transformation UI solution. So this one is a functionality which will actually add a nice button. Let me actually open up this one in the tab. When you enable the solution, it will add a ribbon functionality, which is a create a modern version of the page. And then if you go through that process, it will actually transform the existing page to be modern. And then it will show this additional, let's say, message there that, hey, do you actually want to keep this page? Is it good enough for you? And if you keep it, it's going to flip the URLs properly. And if you say, no, I'm going to discard this page, then it's collecting feedback and asking, why didn't you like what was wrong? So we are able to get the feedback back and improve the transformation. So really cool stuff, and available for you as an open source solution. So I think That's pretty cool. Now, the next one in here from Paulo, related on developing Microsoft Teams tabs with SharePoint Framework. Really big bet in our side. So we're looking into releasing 1.8 with a GA, so general availability of the Microsoft Teams tabs development in SharePoint Framework. No timings yet on the 1.8 release publicly, but well, we'll get there. I think we publicly said at some point that it will happen in the first quarter of this calendar year, so relatively soon. One thing to notice here, we're just chatting with Waldek, right? So Paulo is now rebranding himself as a hip and a youngster dude and a dev because he has
a React hoodie, yeah.
Sorry, Paulo. I always make fun of you, but I think it's fine. Yeah. So
it's all love, right?
It's all love. It's just love. Now, moving on things, Stefan Power had an interesting article related on Galbdist in SPFX, one command to create a clean solution package. So basically, when you're doing if you want to do a clean package on SharePoint Framework, you basically need to execute 3 different commands. So calc clean, calc bundle, and calc package solution. If you do the final release and you do calc bundle --ship and calc bundle calc package solution --ship, and you get the final solutions out. And what Stefan is basically introducing here is just a single command which will then execute those other commands. So everything will be then ready to go with a single command. So nice clarification also on how to create those commands as well. So, and he also has a video from his YouTube channel, which is relatively new thing. So Stefan really started now collecting or releasing the videos on his YouTube channel, which is an N8 design. Deep sign. What does it mean?
Dev sign.
Dev sign. Yes, not design.
Developer design, dev
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah. But yeah, so Stefan is going to release more and more guidance here as well, in a similar way as Paulo has been releasing on his YouTube videos, or in the same way as Sebastian Levert has his own Sparks channel, which is the latest one on this one is actually really cool as well. So the Kenneth Ohenberg from the Visual Studio Code team had a holiday, let's say, what is it? A proof of concept written during holidays as a personal project, and basically what it does, and now it's in a beta mode to have an extension in the Visual Studio Code, is that you're able to actually run the browser in a previous page all the time in the inside of Visual Studio Code. So you don't necessarily always have to then start a browser or run the debug mode inside of the browser. You can run the browser inside of the Visual Studio Code. It's personally, I would say it's a matter of a preference. Do you want to do this or do you want to do something else? What's your preference, Waldek?
Well, I get need for this. I don't build that many things in browser nowadays, but I can imagine that it's convenient to have it side by side. On the other hand, like the benefit to put the browser window next to codes, yeah.
Debatable.
Exactly, and then especially with Office 365, where you have different accounts, profiles, and how you're going to mimic that in VS Code, it gets quickly complicated.
Yeah, that was one of his comments in the video as well. So when you're running the online workbench, it is always an independent browser. So basically, this what happens, by the way, when you're traveling 26 hours or haven't slept for enough. Let's put it this way. No. So the browser is always running as a new instance, so therefore it's always asking you to sign in. So it doesn't actually say the things, at least now. So one note maybe for Stefan, he actually shows nicely here what needs to be actually happening and how to configure. The only downside was that he didn't actually include the example snippet of the JSON definition in his blog post, which is in here, so you can absolutely get it. It's a matter of just get it inside.
Copy paste.
So just a note, if you're creating a video, it's always a good idea to share those assets as easily usable, because then anybody can just test what you're doing in the video as well, so and learn from those.
Yeah.
But hey, just it is a 4 lines, so it's not that much. So all good. Now, other cool stuff from Simon Ågren. Simon has been really active lately as well. So intro to durable functions in Node.js with BMP.js. So basically, if I scroll down, the architecture is in here. So he has a example case where he has a timer trigger, and then the timer trigger is executing all the time the orchestrator, and that's then actually using running the get lists with the BMP.js and then doing stuff on the fly. So basically, it's a function which is constantly, how would I put it, getting executed, so to say. It's a so, and it's all the time running, not based on explicit request, but it's based on the timer execution in this case. So he's a relatively long blog post explaining the different scenarios and how to set up things. So quite nice stuff. Now, David Warner had once again more and more videos, by the way. So a new video related on the dynamic loading of the CSS styles. So this is part 2, dynamic bundling of styles, and it really shows the optimization of the code. So how do you download or associate, first of all, reference the code and then execute the code depending efficiently and loading only relevant CSS styles when you're rendering the component. So cool stuff, absolutely. So definitely recommended to check the parts 1 and 2 involved. Good. This one was interesting as well. So from Yannick, SPFX Web Part Scope Service. So he had a dependency injection SPFX blog post a few months ago. And I think if I remember correctly, this blog post, he's even writing on, I run into this bug, and then I realized that, my scopes are actually wrong. what it means is that when you're writing the component and the services, you really need to think that how do you implement the singleton patterns in the TypeScript / JavaScript, so that is the scope per web part or is the scope per page, because obviously it has a pretty different meaning. So I think he had a GIF animation here where the scopes are actually in the wrong level, which means that every single time he refreshes the page, the other updates from this one, because he's using the service scopes, are also leaked to the other web part, and that wasn't the intention. So this is a good example of you really need to be careful how that works.
Yep.
Which kind of reminds me on the upcoming library component.
Yes.
Investigating on that one. I will have a few meetings related on that one this week. Well, at least one meeting with an engineer who's currently looking into making that happen. So,
woohoo!
Pretty cool. Library component is how would you explain what is the library?
DLL.
Component?
So you can describe it in two ways. So one, DLL, meaning a reusable piece of code, but then two, because reusable piece of code, you could achieve it already today with npm. Right, so you would create, you would create a new package, and you would put the reusable code in there. But the library offers you another thing, which is one instance of that reusable piece of code per page, and you cannot do that by yourself with npm.
Yeah,
or at least without a lot of code around it, checking like, is there an instance already and how to.
Then you can deploy the component as an individual thing if you want to, even in an isolated SPP KG file. So
exactly. So that is exactly the whole point, right? So you could have, for example, imagine that you would have a component that is your LOB service on a page, basically the same way. Like if you look at the MS Graph client, that is a library service. The same with AD HTTP client, and so forth, right? So just have one instance on a page that everything else on the page can reuse.
Yeah. And it's good to get that one supported for third party as well, because for first party, we're meaning the engineering implementation that has been supported from day one. And
yes, because you've been using that by yourself, yeah.
Exactly, is for getting that functionality available for external partners and customers. So that's really cool. Now, moving on thing. So this one was interesting from Joel Rodriguez. And it is actually modifying the out-of-the-box classic discussion board list and making sure that that's threading properly. So basically, what he's showing here is how to modify or how to adapt the existing SPUI discussions, debug.js, and this debug JavaScript files. Now, this is technically a hack because we're kind of modifying the out-of-the-box files. But again, if you know what you're doing and are willing to take the responsibility of your actions, so to say, so you know that this will mean that you are overriding out-of-the-box experiences, then potentially you could do that. It is, however, debatable. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, and I guess so in this case, I don't think that he overrides the files per se, but he overrides the functions in the files. So when the page will load, he will define new function with the same name but different logic, right? Yeah. So in case of an update, if something would change or there would be a new option that would be available out of the box but not in his code, then that could lead potentially to a break in the experience.
Now, what he's trying to solve here, and what's the problem is that the new modern discussion in the modern lists doesn't support threading. So it's a single discussion and that's it. There's no threading like in the old SharePoint. So, and maybe some customers are used to threading with the replies and all of that, and they would like to use that again. So, understandable. I think we had some performance challenges with the classic discussion, and that's why the modern is for now a single threaded.
Flat.
Flat, yes. And I know that it's been looked on, and based on the feedback, it will be evolved as well. But the old implementation, if you ever actually used it in the on-premises, I think from 2010 even.
I think so too, yeah.
social experiences. It wasn't really super performant in the large deployments, which is obviously a massive challenge if we're hosting that in the cloud for customers as well. So
yeah,
because the scale is quite huge. Now, few more things. How to let users fill out the new documents based on a template in Office client directly from SharePoint. So basically not open the file locally and then rather pinpoint it directly from SharePoint. And this one is interesting from Jonas, related on the usage of the scheme name and command name and syntax. So this is basically a syntax which can be used here as an example. Command certain actions in the browser or in the operating system. I think it actually is operating system.
The browser.
Is it the browser?
Yeah. Okay. So the browser will launch it, and I think that will be then passed to the protocol handler in the OS.
Yeah. But the whole point is that you're able to basically then say that let's modify that document directly in that location or open it directly from that location. So Jonas is explaining how the out-of-the-box behavior also working from that perspective in here.
Yeah, and also with all the commands like open or create new, save, and all that, like the whole string is encoded with the instructions.
Yep. Yes. And I think this, I'm pretty sure that this would be actually documented somewhere in our protocol docs, but I can't.
In theory, yes.
It should be in protocol docs at least, so because, well, it is a protocol which we're using in the UI. It should be absolutely documented there. And I think we've been pretty strict on getting those documents out there, so it should be available somewhere. But can you actually find it? That's a different discussion because they're hard to find. Now, the final article from Jonah C. Klein, this is more again, Jonah doesn't really write kind of this is a code piece, but it's more on solution design again, which is super important thing because the developers obviously can write code and call web parts, but somebody needs to define the overall solution. How do we actually, what is the life cycle of for example, a news page? And how do we expire the news page? And if we expire the news page using a page properties in the site pages library, then we need to make sure that the property exists in all of those libraries whenever the library is getting provisioned, right? So it's the overall design and behavioral design or thinking, solution architectural design, which is driving then who's developing what. So and from that perspective, all of this stuff is super, super relevant as well. Use a site column as a page property on the site pages library and filter based on the managed property associated to a page property. Yeah. So basically, there's two different options, and she's explaining those two here. What does it actually mean? Step 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, and explaining how does it actually is visible, how does it actually then behave from a end user perspective. So we know what is actually expired and what is not expired. Cool stuff. So we're able to filter away the expired pages, news from the articles. Sorry, I'm talking completely nonsense.
It makes perfect sense. Like you want to be able to show news between particular dates range.
Yes.
At particular date, you want news not to show anymore because maybe it's a time-sensitive announcement, and these are two ways in which you can do it, and there are some things to take into account, right? Because Owen writes, you cannot have in the highlighted content and web part, you cannot have an or, so you cannot say this or that.
Yep.
Right, so you can only filter by one thing currently. So apparently that's a one thing for you to keep into.
That's the current status, and that might be the situation might be completely different within a few months. But and sure, even some of the watchers of the video might be thinking multiple other options on solving this. But at least she's sharing two different options, and sure, might be multiple other options as well.
And I guess important part here is these are available out of the box for this. You don't need to develop anything. You don't need to write custom code.
Well, no custom code, but again, if you think about option 2, if we spend 2 minutes on this one, create a data site column called expiration date. Add that column to site pages library. 100% agree. No code needed. It's a single end user click through functionality. But if we do this in a scale for, let's say, all of the divisions and team sites even, which we have in our company, let's say that we have hundreds of site collection, it's not an end user behavior. So you need to take that into account in your code, which will then provision that column to be available in the library, unless it is a single site collection where the functionality
Exactly.
But an awesome example by the SharePoint is kind of a complex from the what is dev and what is non-dev, because this is definitely not just a SPFX or API discussion, because SPFX and APIs have a meaning. SPFX, your custom web part could actually take advantage of this column and use that for whatever reasons you need to get the column in, and provisioning that on the sites as well. So, but really cool stuff, and good to get the different opinions. I really like the blog posts where people are kind of thinking and showing options and then explaining why something is better than the other one, even though both works, because that really helps, let's say, maybe not that experienced people to understand background information. So, now I get it. So that's why we shouldn't be doing that, because this is once again one of those things. There's no right or wrong, or there's no best practices. There's multiple ways of doing things. It always depends on what is your
scenario. Yes.
Scenario and your resources has an impact on all of that. So anyway, let me actually stop the pages, and I need to get some sleep. We didn't want to skip this week's SharePoint Dev Weekly. It's Sunday on my time zone, correct time zone, right?
Yes.
So I started flying on 9 a.m. in the morning in Finland, and I'm still on the same day, 11:30 now. We're closing actually midnight.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
I slept some time on the plane, but not too much, but still. So that's why.
So with that, hit the bed, get some rest, and we'll have another one next week.
That sounds good. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll come up with a new one next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.